Okay, hi everyone. I'm Sherry. My online name is Harry Hen. That's what I go by a lot. My topic today is going to be on, or it is on introduction to late position aggression in tourneys. When you guys play tourneys versus cash games, do you guys play them differently? Like what, how, in what way? Yeah.
I'm a lot looser in cash versus like the hands that I probably play.
Oh.
Tournaments, I'm gonna be much tighter.
Okay.
I don't, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little more selective with my hands.
Okay. Anyone else? Like what do you generally notice it? Yeah.
I would be the opposite.
Okay. Why?
I find with tournaments, not that I've played a lot, it's just early wins are really helpful.
For momentum?
Build up
Yeah.
the set, right? Build it up.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Right or not.
Yeah, so I guess I can mention it here. So the figure on the left is a tourney and on the right is a cash game. So what are some noticeable differences you see? And maybe it's hard to see. Yeah.
The blind sizes, like, or however many bigs people have.
Their stack depth is very different. So what do you notice? Like on the cash game, what's generally the average stack?
It looks to be like around 100.
Yeah.
While, tournaments, you could obviously see like how short stack people can be.
Yeah.
Like 25-ish.
Exactly.
Plus.
So in cash games, you're generally playing about 100 bigs deep. In tourneys, you can be playing, like some people here, the small stack has 1.6 bigs. The biggest stack on the table is 38 bigs. You rarely play that in a cash game. But is there another major difference that you see? What's in the pot right now between, yeah. Go ahead.
The ante?
Yes. So the ante is gonna dictate a lot of the play in tourneys. So the difference between a cash game and tourney, one of the major differences is that in the pot right now, in the tourney is about 2.5 bigs. So it's 0.9 ante in the middle because in online play, every player puts in ante. In live play, we just make the big blind put it in. So just assume that there's about 1 big for the ante. In a cash game, there's just a small blind and the big blind. So there's 1.5 bigs in the pot right now. And so if you were to play in a tourney, you are risking 2 bigs of your own chips to win your own 2 bigs back. You're also risking to win the small blind, which is half a big. You can also win the big blind and then the ante, which is about 1 big. So the total pot that you can win is 4.5. And so oh my God. Okay, there it is. So there's a small blind and then the big blind and then the ante. And that totals up to 4.5 bigs. So your required equity is gonna be 2 bigs to win 4.5 bigs, which is about 45%. So this means that when you're opening in a tourney, you only need to win about 45% of the time to make your bet profitable against the players left to act. Whereas in a cash game, you're generally deeper stacks, so you get to open a bit bigger. So in live cash games, you're probably open like 3 or 4 bigs. Whereas online, you can open about 2.5 bigs because you're deeper. So you're risking 2.5 to win 2.5 back, plus a small blind and the big blind, and that is going to equal to 4 bigs. So your required equity is 2.5 to win 4, which is about 63%. So your required equity is higher in a cash game. So you're going to have to win 63% of the time to make your bet profitable in a cash game, which means you get to play wider in tourneys because you require less equity. You're risking less to win more in a tourney, whereas in a cash game, you're risking more to win less. And that's how the stack depth and the ante influences a lot of how you play. So now we know that in a tourney, you get to open wider. When do you get to open wider? So when you're looking at this table, which positions do you think you have the advantage of opening wider? Go ahead. Button? I heard button. Yeah, what else? Cut off, yeah.
I was gonna say the big blind.
Open in the big blind?
Or no, not opening rather. But
Yeah.
it would be wider in the big blind, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And we'll get to that. So everyone noted the correct position. So if you're opening in late position, 8-handed ring, you get to open on the cutoff and the button as late position. Some may also include the hijack as a late position open. If it folds to the small blind, you also get to open very wide, but that's a completely different scenario, blind v blind, because you're going to be playing out of position post flop. So I'm just going to be mainly talking, I'm pretty much only talking about these cutoff and button, pretty much only button opening for today. But when do you also get to open wider? So if you're looking at your table and you see that, for example, you're on the button, you want to open. If you notice that the blinds, they aren't playing a lot of hands, do you get to open wider or should you tighten up against those players? What do you think?
Tighten up.
Tighten up? Why?
I guess they're not playing a lot of hands unless like they feel like they have a good hand, or that's how I interpreted that.
Okay, anyone else?
I would play wider, would want to just pick up the blinds because chance of them having decent cards is very low.
Yeah. So that's generally the direction you can go. So because the blind, so for example, this guy, Ray guy, and the small blind, he has 0% VPIP, so he hasn't played any hands since he sat down. If you open, he's more likely to fold to you, assuming that, what did I say? So assuming that he doesn't wake up with a monster. So you get to play wider against those players, but you have to be very cautious because, for example, this guy, I know him, he has 0% VPIP, and you have to be very cautious because maybe he just sat down on the table. So online, you can look at how many hands they played. Maybe they had a poor distribution, maybe only sat down, they only seen 10 cards or 10 hands. So most likely they're not gonna have any hands to play. So you have to be very cautious. In life, you can see like when people sit down or when they move from another table. So that's just something to be mindful of. You also have to be mindful of your table image. So if you haven't been opening a lot of hands, you get to generally open, or you just have to be more aware of what players on your table perceive you as. So if you haven't been opening many hands, maybe you can then open a more marginal hand. But at the same time, you also have to be cautious. Just be very mindful of how other people perceive you. And then also another important thing is that the bounties, the bounties, you can consider them as chips. So in this tourney, maybe you guys can see or maybe you can't see from that distance that there's money on top of them. So this is a bounty tournament, which means that if you cover them and you knock them out, you get their bounty. So you automatically get the whatever is on their head. And so if you cover them and you open and you stack them, so you cover them, then whatever you're winning is the chips plus the bounty on their head. So you can equate the bounties to chips. But like every scenario, you have to be cautious because later on in the tourney, this amount, say for example, they only have 25 on their head, are you gonna risk your entire stack to win $25 when the min cash is 100? So be very mindful of when in the tourney you're going for bounties, but also there are many different things to consider, but just be cautious. And so everything that I said is where you're winning the blinds pre-flop, which means it's the same thing as, so when you're winning the blinds uncontested, it means that you're winning it pre-flop. You're opening to hopefully take it down, just win it's like whatever, win however many bigs. And this is also called stealing. So stealing is a form of a bluff. You're raising with a weaker hand in late position because you get to you're more likely to take down the blinds because you have to go through less players. And so what kind of hands could you try to steal with? So at 30 bigs, if you're under the gun versus if you are on the button, what differences do you think there are? Like, how many hands do you think you're opening under the gun? What percentage of hands do you think you're opening under the gun? Yeah.
Like maybe 18-20%.
Yeah, spot on. So it's about 18-20%, so 19% of hands you're opening under the gun at 30 bigs. Whereas on the button, any guesses? How many hands you're opening? Yeah.
Based off of the math you did earlier, I'm gonna say like 54%.
Yeah, very close. So you're opening about half of the hands that you're being dealt. So about 50% of the hands, depending on many factors, you can open a lot wider. So for me personally, I open any 2 suited cards on the button. I would not advise that, but you just have to be aware of what your table image is. Now that people know that I open any 2, I have to tighten up my range more.
When you say open, you mean call or you mean raise?
It means raise.
Yeah.
Yeah, open is raising. So you're putting in 2 bigs. You're opening up the action.
In 2 bigs?
Yeah. Okay. So then if we look at, so now we know that on the button, you're generally gonna open, you're gonna raise very wide, about 50% of your hands. So then we can look at on the button, what the difference is between your stacks. So at 30 bigs, like we said, it's gonna be about 50% of the hands. But let's say at 17 bigs, what percent of the hands do you think you're opening? So you're gonna be opening about half of that, half of what you're normally opening at 30 bigs. So at 17 bigs, you're gonna tighten up your range a lot more. And this is because hands like Jack 4 suited that you're normally opening, well, normally for in GTO that you're normally opening, you're gonna be folding those because you're risking 2 bigs of 17 with these hands that if the blinds see that you're opening very wide, they can jam into you and you don't have a good enough hand to call. You wanna be still opening some hands that have high enough equity against their calling range. At the same time, at around 17 bigs, you're gonna try to incorporate more hands to jam. So these, the dark red, the maroon, are the hands that you're gonna be jamming with. So for example, pocket deuces up to pocket 5s, you're fine with jamming for 17 bigs on the button because these are hands that you can see see the full equity. And other hands like 10-9 suited, you can jam those hands because if you're opening 2 bigs and let's say the blinds jam, you're most likely going to fold. But if you decide to jam and they call with their calling range, you can be flipping some of the times against their pairs. So let's say 10-9 suited, you're gonna be flipping against 8s and below, or you're gonna have decent amount of equity against hands like king-queen suited if they're jamming, ace-jack suited if they're jamming. You just have a decent amount of equity against their jamming range or their calling range.
Sorry, did you say Jack 4 suited? Here?
Jack 4 suited, so yeah, I did.
Sorry, I can't see the board.
Yeah, Jack 4 suited is here, so it's like right at the cutoff of where you want to open on the button. You can open, yeah, okay. What hands could you try to steal with? Okay, so then we looked at what hands you can try to steal. So when should you try to steal? So we already know that you can steal in late position, but what specifically about the blinds or the stage and the tourney do you think you have more advantage trying to steal and getting it down or taking it down pre? We already mentioned the blinds.
The bubble.
Yeah. Huh? Someone said the bubble. Yeah, so one of them is a bubble. And then previously we mentioned the blinds. If you notice that they haven't been playing many hands, if maybe they're passive, they don't want to play post flop, then maybe they're most likely gonna fold to your open, then why not open any 2? Not any two. Wanna open wider. Okay, wanna open wider. Staging and turning, yes, the bubble. So the reason why you can open a lot wider on the bubble is because a lot of the shorter stacks aren't going to be defending as wide or jamming as wide as they normally would in the bubble phase, because they're risking their entire stack when they can just sneak by. And so because of that, they're playing a lot tighter. You get to open wider to hopefully take it down pre. You get to punish the tighter stacks or tighter players because of their stacks.
Sure. What does bubble mean?
Okay, so bubble means, so in a tourney, when you get to the top 15%, usually the top 15% of players get paid. Let's say it's 100 entries. The top 15 players get paid. When it gets down to the 16th player, let's say we have 16 players left. There has to be one player that busts out, yes, that loses the tourney, their entire stack, everything. And so it has to be one player to go before everyone else gets paid. And so this stage of the tourney is called the bubble, where there's a lot of pressure, and then as soon as that player busts, the bubble bursts. So it's like everything's relieved. All the stress is relieved, all the pressure is relieved. So it's a very high pressure situation. Okay. Where was I? When do you try to steal? Okay, so then we can also look into betting for value when opening in late position. So we talked about stealing. So that's all the pre-flop. You're trying to take things down uncontested, but there's a lot of value in opening late position because you get to bet for value in late position. So when you're playing in late position, you get to set the price. What that means is that you get to decide how much to bet, and you get to control the pot. So maybe you decide, okay, I want to bet a third pot, maybe it's a half pot. So this is on you. This is not on the person who's out of position most of the time. You're also in the driver's seat. So what that means is that, for example, if you are late position, you open, and then one of the blinds call. If you continue on the flop, if let's say they check to you, you bet, they call on the turn. If they check, they're naturally going to check on a lot of turns to you. If they check, you get to check back to see a free river. You also get to bet thinner for value. So because you're opening wider in late position, they also get to call you wider in their blinds. And so, for example, if you have Jack 8 suited on a Jack 7-3 flop, you're more likely to realize that you have the better hand on this flop. So you get to bet on a flop like this, and then if you're on, and then let's say on the turn there's a middling card, you can choose, maybe you want to go for another street of value because maybe you still have the best hand. On the river, if it's a low card, you can decide to go for a third street of value. And this is because you're playing such a wide range that the calling range in the blinds is also going to be wide, so you can go for more streets of value. Okay? So to summarize, the advantages of opening a late position is that you get to play more marginal hands. So the hand strength requirement is going to be lower. You need less equity. You're also last to act if you're opening late position versus the blinds, and there's a lot of advantages post-flop with that. When you're opening late position, there are less players to get through versus if you're opening in under the gun. You also get to make the blinds question what they're going to do. So if you just fold, the blinds aren't going to have to make a difficult decision. Whereas if you open, now the blinds have to be like, can I call here? Do I raise here? Should I fold here? You also get to value bet thinner. So that was the last slide. Now, there are a lot of advantages to opening late position, but there are also problems or obstacles. So what kind of obstacles do you foresee when you attempt to steal? Yeah.
Maybe the blinds fighting back.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you think your opponents can adjust to you stealing the blinds? What can the blinds do to adjust to?
It'd be 3-betting wider.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, so You can 3-bet lighter in the blinds because if late position's open and wider, they're trying to take it down pre, you can 3-bet them lighter because you also want to take it down pre. You know that they're going to play wide, I'm going to play wide. Let's both try to take it down pre. At the same time, if you don't want to 3-bet them, let's say you have a decent hand, you want to play post, you can defend wider. So normally if you're not playing something like Jack 4 suited I was talking about, in this situation, if they open and you just have to call one big, you can defend, you can play those kind of hands. Whereas under the gun, you're not opening something like Jack 4. If you call and you end up going post flop, you get to call them down lighter. So to defend or to play post flop against a wide position, you get to also call them down lighter because they're going to be playing a wider range, you get to be playing a wider range. So you don't need to have a narrower range to play against them, so you can keep calling down for more streets to potentially win the pot. And so basically you get to attack wide with wide. So then we can look at how do you defend against late position aggression. So say for example, but the button opens at 30 bigs effective with the small blind. What do you do in the small blind if you have ace queen off? Yeah.
So this is just like clarification. Does it make a difference if the 30 big stack is the small blind or if it's the button in terms of defender?
Let's say in this case that you're the small blind with 30 bigs.
So small blinds even.
Yeah, I think everyone has 30 bigs in this scenario, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can assume that everyone has 30 bigs, but the effective stack is 30 bigs. So let's say you have 30 bigs, and the big blind also, that's included, right? Those three. So what do you do with ace queen off?
3-bet.
3-bet? Who else?
That's small blind, right? 3-bet.
3-bet? I heard all in, 3-bet? No one's folding? Okay, good. Okay, so 100% of the time you should be jamming. Yeah. So what about with ace queen suited?
Of course.
Huh? I heard 3-bet?
Jam as well, right?
Jam as well? What else? 3-bet or jam? Oh, I guess those are the two options. You can, huh?
DD got it. I was just saying.
So you want to be raising, okay? So you're 3-betting. And the reason, so the difference between those two hands is, okay, so with ace queen off, the reason why you're jamming is because you get to run your entire equity. So let's say they open, you jam, say big blind folds. If they call, you get to see all 5 cards. Okay, you have a good enough hand to see all 5 cards. With ace queen suited, the reason why you raise is because you get to keep the weaker hands in. Yeah. So you have a stronger hand than most of their opening range. So if you raise and they call, you're more likely, well, not more likely, but you could potentially have, it's reasonable to assume that you're going to have the stronger hand, the strongest hand there. There's also another reason. Does anyone know? Say you 3-bet, they call. What happens now? Post flop. So you can navigate post flop easier with a suited hand as opposed to an offsuit hand. Okay. Okay, king 9 suited. What do you guys think?
My guess is jam.
Your guess is jam?
You raise.
Oh, what was it called?
No, I'm sorry, 30 big.
Wait, I wasn't listening.
I don't know. I can take
No, I jam. No, I think.
You jam?
30 big.
Fuck them up.
Fuck them up. They're opening wide. King 9 suited is okay. Fuck them up.
Okay, king 9 suited is 3-bet. Okay, king 9 suited. So someone said jam, someone said 3-bet.
I think I heard every single option.
You heard,
Yeah.
except fold?
I heard everything.
Okay, good. It's a from the small blind, it's a pure call.
Whoops.
Okay, it's a pure call.
We looked at the.
What about queen 10 suited? What do you guys think?
Not this one's a jam.
That's a call for sure.
It's a jam.
I feel like it's in the same category almost.
No.
Jam, call.
It's one class lower.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's a jam.
so with this one, it's a jam.
Oh my god.
So it's like the strong hands you wanna stay in.
Taking on.
She's gonna explain it, don't worry. It's coming up. We got it.
So you don't want to make generalizations. It's important to know. So for example, in this situation with King 9 suited, if you're calling. So you're playing against a very wide range on the button. If you're just calling, you could be dominating their open. So let's say they're opening with King 8 suited. That's easily an open on the button. King 7, 9-8. A bunch of these hands you're dominating. You're keeping them in. Whereas with Queen 10 suited, the reason why you could be jamming is that it's an efficient jam. So efficient jam, it means that you can be getting something like King 10 suited to fold. You can be getting better hands to fold. Obviously, you're not getting better or over pairs to fold, but you're getting a lot of these better marginal hands to fold. At the same time, if you do get called, you could just be flipping. If someone's opening pocket 8s on the button, or pocket 9s on the button or wherever, and you decide to jam Queen 10 suited, you're just flipping with them. Let's say they decide to open Ace Jack suited. You're not flipping, you're behind, but you have a really good hand to still run your full equity against. Okay. What about pocket 5s? Call.
Rip it.
Rip.
Would this be a fold?
Fold.
It's still a big to have.
Oh, wait. 3. No. It's actually, no, actually.
Call.
I might say fold.
I might say fold.
Fold, call.
I'm
Whew. There's so many options.
No way.
I'd say you were
50% hands
flipping against everything.
There's still a big
Okay.
to act.
Still flip.
There's still a big blind left to act.
Yeah, this is the blind and
Okay. When button opens, small blind, 30 bigs effective with pocket 5, it's a pure jam.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's a
jam. I changed the fold. I said jam. That's what.
So don't fold here, okay? There are merits to, you could, I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, there are merits, like, depending on who's opening, you could call. It's not the best option. It's hard to play post with a hand like that to realize your equity.
That's kind of the same as the ace queen o.
Yeah,
In that sense.
yeah. So you want to run your full equity. Or yeah, you want to run your full equity, see all 5 cards with a hand like a pair. It's hard to make a pair. What about pocket 8s?
Call.
Call, fold.
Same for me.
I hear call, fold. What else?
Same jam.
Same jam. Okay,
I think if 5s are good.
jam for sure. 5s jam. Okay, well this one is a pure jam.
Damn it.
Oh.
You're so fucking me up.
So you're happy putting in your entire stack 30 bigs with pocket 8s. Okay, to this kind of action. What about with jacks?
That's always
Raise.
Jacks.
Yeah, I'm saying 3 bet here.
3-bet, raise.
Strong hand.
Raise for sure.
I hear 3-bet and raise. Obviously no one's folding.
Well, you know, it's jam.
Jams.
Jam, yeah. Okay, so this one is a pure raise. So what I think the most, I guess, similar to ace queen suited, right? You have a very good hand. You're dominating a lot of their opening range. You wanna, where was I? Oh, you're dominating a lot of their opening range. So you also want to raise for value, right? Like if you're shipping it with hands like 5s and 8s, you're happy running it through your entire equity. But at the same time, you're also going to get a lot of hands to fold that maybe with jacks you don't want them to fold.
Why is that? Why are jacks like one of the worst hands to get online?
To what?
That's worse hands. They end up losing on
Yeah, I always say that jacks is a drawing hand. It's not true.
So what?
It's a drawing hand. So it means like whenever you have jacks, for some reason there's always an ace or a queen or a king on the flop, or somehow they have a under pair and they hit their set. So I always joke that jacks is a drawing hand. But it's not. It's a very good hand. It's a very, very strong hand. And in this exact scenario, you want to be going for value. You want to be raising for value. You want to keep their weaker hands in. You want to create a pot.
Sure, is it kind of like the way I'm understanding it right now is like if it's a value hand, if you think it's a value hand, great, right? But if there's some vulnerability to it, jam.
Yeah.
And that's why I say 5, ace queen off.
Yeah. There are a lot of hands that are quote unquote vulnerable, and you're happy to run you're happy to put in your entire stack and run your equity. See all 5 cards. You know, like how it's not often that you hit a set on the river, but like think about ace king. Hands like those, you're laughing to ship that in, run your entire equity. Maybe ace or king hits on the river, So there are a lot of hands that similar to queen 10 suited, ace queen off, that you're happy just putting your entire stack in and running your full equity. And then hands like jacks, they're just too strong against this kind of action. Late position open, they're going to be folding a lot of their. If they're already going to play wide, why rip it to get them to make an easy fold? 3-bet, maybe make them go like, oh, well, it's such a good price. Maybe I'm going to call with 10-9 suited. Okay.
Actually, question.
Yeah.
If the late position opens like 2 bigs, what size are you 3-betting?
So it depends which stage of the tourney. Like even on the FT, 30 bigs is a lot. You can even raise to 6 bigs in the small. So naturally, most common, at least in cash games, is that you're opening 8x on the smaller big blind to a 2 big open on the button. But I find that when stacks are shallower, I go for more closer to like 7 or 7.5 bigs. And then if it goes even shallower, you can go for like 6 bigs, even 5 bigs sometimes. I don't know. This is a one where it's like, it depends on a lot of things.
Right. Yeah.
But generally about 3 to 4x. Okay, what about a hand like Jack 8 suited?
The queen 10 suited, right?
Call. I just call.
Call, what else? Fold. What else? Fold. It's call or fold. So you almost don't want to be. I have to look at the chart, but I'm gonna make generalizations that you almost don't want to be folding any suited hands. Okay, so you're gonna call. Maybe calling here. But then what about something like King Jack suited?
Oh, for sure.
Huh?
Jam.
Raise.
Jam, raise, 3-bet non all in. What else? So no one's folding. So yeah. So you can call or raise. Yeah, you can call or raise here. You can call or raise. Okay, so then what about on the big blind? So this is the difference is that, okay, so this case, you're in a small blind, button opens, you have 30 bigs. You're going to call or raise with King Jack suited, but now let's say the small blind folds. What do you do in the big blind with King Jack suited? So this hand is in the small blind. It's a good enough hand to play it post, right? You can also go for value, as you know that the late or the button's opening very wide, so you can go for value. This is a suited hand. It's great. But what about on the big blind? Jam.
Raise.
Raise.
Maybe like baby aces to fold.
Getting aces to fold.
No, small baby aces, like ace 3.
Ace X to fold.
I don't think
It's like you mean it's right.
Yeah.
Pretty big to call off.
big blind opens. Big blind has a big and 2 bigs in there. They have to
So what was your option?
rip it.
Rip it.
Rip it.
Yeah.
No one else.
Yeah, but ace 5 is a fold. Raise.
Okay. This is a pure call. So compare that to the big blind. So say the small blind folds. Look at how many more hands you're playing in the big blind. So what was the example? I said king jack suited, right? Yeah, so king jack suited here. In the small blind, if it opens to you, you can mix. So sometimes you're raising, most of the time you're just gonna flat. Whereas in the big blind, if it folds to you, you can just call. So you're just calling king jack suited on the big blind. And like he said, the reason why is just have a strong enough hand to play that post. So yeah, so why? Is that you just have a strong enough hand to play post, right? Like you're only calling one big to win whatever's in the pot. So you get to play a very wide range of hands in the big blind. So for example, here you are playing 85% of the hands that you are dealt if it comes to a button open at 30 bigs effective. Compare that to the button open. So we were looking at what hands the button opens. They're opening about 50% of their hands. Why does the big blind defend so many more hands than what the button opens? Yeah.
You already have some money or some big in there.
Okay.
And there's one big.
Okay. What else?
You're closing the action.
Yes. Very good. Okay, I think that's it, right? So the big, well, big, oh, it's just a lie. Okay, so big thing is about the big blind completing. So you're calling one big to win one big of your own, one big from the big blind, one big from the ante, half big from the small blind, and two bigs from whoever opens. So in this case, it's the button, which means that you're risking one big to win 5.5 bigs. Okay, so your required equity is 1 divided by 5.5, and that's 18%, which means that your required equity is 18%. You need to win 18% of the time by calling one big to make this call profitable, which means you can lose 82% of the time. Yes, I did that. The only thing is you have to be very cautious of how you, or what kind of hands you want to play. You're gonna have to be careful with navigating posts. So you're gonna be playing out of position. Yes, you want to defend very wide, but be cautious of how you want to play post and who you're playing against. So that's just an introductory to opening and late position. There's a lot more about this. So for example, there are many nuances like position opens. Today, I only went through button open. Cutoff open is gonna be very different because cutoff and buttons they're gonna interact a lot, okay? You open on the cutoff, the button's gonna 3-bet you a lot lighter than if under the gun open and then it comes to the button. Hijack is also gonna be is also gonna be a different situation too, you know? You have to go through 2 people behind you plus the blinds. The stack depth. So today I only went through 30 bigs, but you already see the difference between 30 bigs and 17 bigs, how much that changes. So on the button, you're only opening 25% of hands when you're at 17 bigs effective, compared to at 30 bigs, you're opening about half of the hands that you're being dealt. You can imagine how that could change at 40 bigs or 100 or whatever in between. So be very cautious of how stack depth affects, yeah.
When you say stack depth, you're talking about sort of our stack depth, right? Not the pot.
So it's the players. So it's your effective. So if you're on the button, you're gonna look at your stack, you're gonna look at the small blind stack and the big blind stack.
Right.
It's whoever has the shortest is the effective stack.
Okay.
And you wanna,
You're playing to that stack.
yeah, you're playing to that stack. So it's not the pot.
Yeah.
Here, I missed this. Is the trend as you go from deeper to more shallow, you get better? So 100 big blinds, more opens?
Yeah, so it's a very, very complicated question or answer to it, and I don't even know it, because yes, you're gonna be generally playing tighter if you're shallower, because you don't wanna commit so much of your stack. Like 2 bigs is gonna be a lot at 15 bigs compared to at 100 bigs. So you're gonna be playing a lot tighter when you're shallower. But then at the same time, when you're like, for example, 200 bigs deep, you don't want to play for stacks with very marginal hands. Mike, you have anything to say, to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. The nuance of it that she's explaining is that as you get deeper, your equity realization post flop has to be better as well. So that's why you might not see like the Jack 4 suited in there anymore if you look at the 100 BB. You know?
So like lower suited connectors as well?
Yeah, like suited connectors, they have like better equity realization, right? Like because they can make straights, they can make flushes, whereas the Jack 4 suited is more disconnected. So like that's like the kind of nuance, but that's just a very specific example, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then also the player types opening. So you're going to have all kinds of players opening in late position, right? Like you just have to be mindful of who's opening, and just because the solver says it's 100% a jam, 100% a call, you have to be very mindful. Like who is in late position open? Just because you think that they can open wider doesn't mean that you can do it 100% of the time, okay? Be very mindful of who's opening. And so then to summarize, so what do we learn about late position aggression? So hand strength, you generally can open wider. You have a lower required equity to be opening weaker hands or marginal hands. You're generally going to be last to act. So I say that because if you open on the cutoff, you may get a flat or a call from the button, so you're no longer last to act. But you're generally last to act. So if you're on the button, the blinds call. And obviously there are going to be a lot of advantages playing post when you're in position. You also get to steal the blind. So by opening late position, you have less players to get through, right? You have less players to get through, so you get to steal the blinds more often than if you're, I shouldn't say more often, but you just have less players to get through. So it's easier to steal the blinds because there are less players to get through. I want to phrase it very specifically. Hi. And then you also want to challenge the blinds. So if you're opening, you don't want to give them an easy decision to just, if you're not opening, you don't want to give them an easy decision to either flat or do their own thing, right? If you're the one opening, you can make them question, do I call, do I raise, do I fold? Then maybe they just fold and let you take it down pre. Value betting, so you're playing in position, you're playing a wide range, and you're gonna be playing against a wide range that's calling. So if the big blind is calling a very wide range, post-flop, you guys are gonna have very wide ranges to get to value bet thinner. And then to counteract a lot of this late position aggression, you wanna be 3-betting wider in the blinds. And you also wanna be defending wider. So basically, you wanna attack wide with wide. Okay, there are a lot of reasons. I hope I went through all the reasons why you can, well, not all, but the introductory reasons to why you attack wide with wide. Okay, thank you.